In Depression-era North Carolina, George Pemberton is an ambitious timber baron who falls in love with Serena Shaw, a young woman with a sad past. They marry, and she joins him on his land and starts to take control, pressuring and questioning George while remaining affectionate. George's business partner Buchanan feels threatened as Serena begins to undermine his authority. The partnership worsens, and Buchanan strikes a deal with the local sheriff, who wants to buy George's land to make a park. George is hurt by his betrayal, and Serena convinces him Buchanan was never his friend. On a shooting trip, George and Buchanan go alone to flush out a bear. George contemplates killing him, only to hesitate and be seen by him. Buchanan cocks his rifle, but George fires first and kills him. Campbell, George's worker, witnesses the murder but denies it to Sheriff McDowell, and the death is ruled an accident. Serena consoles George and justifies his actions. After seeing his illegitimate son Jacob posing with his mother, Rachel, for a picture, George feels responsible for the boy and begins giving her money. Serena remains unaware of this, but considers Rachel and the baby a threat. When Galloway loses his hand to an errant axe swing, Serena uses a belt as a tourniquet to save his life. George rushes the pregnant Serena to the hospital after she experiences heavy bleeding and pain. She miscarries, and they learn she can never again bear children. Tensions grow, and the parentage of Rachel's baby becomes more obvious to Serena. While Serena and George are away, Campbell takes ledges from the safe and presents them to the sheriff. He is preparing to testify that George has been bribing a senator and shot Buchanan deliberately. Discovering what Campbell has done, George and Serena realize he could ruin them. Galloway tells Serena that he knows where Campbell is, and tells George there is a panther in the forest so he's busy hunting it. Meanwhile, Galloway heads into town to kill Campbell and retrieve the ledges. Finding George's hidden picture of Rachel and her baby and discovering that George has been giving Rachel money, Serena scratches the baby's face from the photograph. Serena leaves with Galloway, telling George that she has business to take care of. Not finding Rachel at home, they head for the widow Jenkins. George's employee Vaughn calls the sheriff, worried about Rachel and what Serena plans to do. The sheriff goes to widow Jenkins, finding her with her throat slashed, and takes Rachel and her baby away. In the morning, the sheriff questions George, revealing that Galloway killed Campbell and the widow Jenkins and that he is after Rachel and her child. George asks Serena if she sent him to kill Rachel and Jacob, which she insists was necessary. He storms out. When Serena follows him, he briefly chokes her before driving off with a gun and the ledges. George goes to the sheriff, gives him the ledges, and promises to turn himself in if he tells him where Rachel and the baby are. George races to save her before Galloway finds her. Galloway tracks Rachel to the train station, where she hides in a shed. As the train approaches, George finds Galloway, who sees Rachel jump onto the train. George goes after them and slashes Galloway's throat. George bids Rachel and the baby farewell as they depart to live with Vaughn. George returns to the camp and sets off to hunt the panther. He shoots it, but it leaps at him from behind, fatally wounding him. He manages to kill it with a hunting knife before dying. The sheriff returns to the Pemberton cabin with George's body. Serena, having expected him to return, grows upset and refuses to identify his body. As the sheriff leaves, she lies on the bed and uses a lighter to set the cabin on fire. Serena remains motionless as it burns, killing her.